Okay, so this isn't my usual fare, but I thought it'd be a useful resource not only for myself but for others that have gone through a similar situation, are going through a similar situation. This is about my so far 3-year struggle with antidepressant withdrawal syndrome, protracted withdrawal syndrome, and this is probably the first time in that 3-year period that I've felt cognitively well enough to do something like this. I have been using for brief stints, brief moments, resources like surviving antidepressants, and all the information that's on their Facebook groups as well. Antidepressant withdrawal support, I think it's called. YouTubers, I don't know, Mark Horowitz, Dr. Joseph Witt-Doerring, Thomas Starchevsky, but I haven't been really cognitively functioning to the level of being able to interact to a significant degree with those sites, with those people on those sites, and I've just been kind of going solo for the entire length of time, really. So I thought I'd use this video to kind of just share my story, what's happened, the recovery process, things that have helped, things that haven't helped, where I am now, what the future looks like. I might do yearly, 6-monthly maybe, updates, we'll see. But this is kind of like a first information dump on the entire process. So I was on citalopram, various dosages, only ever one antidepressant. Well, that's a lie. But majority of the time I was on one drug. In around, when was it? Was it 2017? I've got in my notes 2017. That feels wrong, but maybe it was. I was prescribed citalopram in 2017 for acute anxiety. I was also prescribed Valium for, I think, like 2 weeks. Take when needed. It's in a pretty bad state around that time. I mean, nothing compared to the last 3 years, but it feels funny looking back on it now, because I'm like, bro, that was nothing. But you're young. Everything's very raw. Everything's very new. Everything's very distressing. I've got quite a neurotic disposition. Runs in the family. You know the story. Valium was nice, I guess. It's like it's great. Really helped me out around that time. The citalopram, it was really hard to say if it really helped around that time or not, because I mean, especially when you look at the studies now, the comparison between people that are on the drug in a trial and in a study and not on the drug in that same study, and the percentage point difference between the two groups over time, over 12 weeks or whatever it is, it's pretty vanishingly small, the difference. But because at the same time, I was getting into my first proper relationship. Looking back on it, absolutely on cloud nine. You've got a lot of like happy chemicals kicking around, and it's all very exciting and happy, and yeah, I kind of did. That was kind of one of the big reasons. Sorry, I'm getting my words straight. One of the contributing factors to the crisis that I had that led me to be put on Valium and citalopram was basically not spending any time on my studies at the time. I was at Cardiff University studying chemistry. I did very well in the first year, probably too well. Come second year, I then met the person who would become my girlfriend, and when you're in that sort of position, you do stupid shit and you don't concentrate on what you need to do to get through your degree and all that stuff. So I completely fucked up second year. I realised I'd fucked up second year and just went into a bit of a crisis. I'd always been a terrific overachiever at school, and therefore failure was not something I was very used to. So it was no surprise that I went into a crisis. So anyway, there's various different dosages that I'm on from that point over the next 5.5, 6 years. I think I was originally prescribed 20 milligrams. I went up to 30 at some point. I think I was offered 40 at some point as well. I didn't do that. I think I then started taking I went straight from like 20 to 10 milligrams in around January 2022, and that was kind of fine. Didn't really notice any changes, and the symptoms up until that kind of point were the side effects that I'm talking about were quite mild, really. Definitely had memory issues, a bit of brain fog. I think looking back on it though, I had less empathy. I was a bit of an arsehole. I was harsh, short, developed a temper, became a pretty uncaring person. And from what I've read from various sources, antidepressants can do that to you. So don't feel so bad I beat myself up for being an arsehole, but I'm trying to recognise it as more of a drug symptom. So my relationship breaks down in, I think it was like August 2022. It kind of was a bit explosive, and so I was living with my partner and her parents around at that time. We had moved in January 2022, and come August 2022, things were getting a bit heated. It all just kind of blew up. I had, in January 2022, I started a new job and a new career. The same job that I'm in now, thank God. I don't know how much I really want to say about all the ins and outs of relationship difficulties, but you know, life happens to you sometimes, and so I had to move out, move to a new city where I'd got this new job on my own. I moved in with a mate for about, I think it was a few days. I think I originally intended to stay for about a week or two, but I think I only stayed for a few days, which was amazing of him. But then I found a place with a work colleague as a lodger that I then moved into in when was it? I think this was maybe just before or maybe just into September, I think, in 2022. Doesn't really matter. And I was going to stay there temporarily, find my feet in a new city and in a relatively new job. I was fucking mortified, to be honest with you. Still am. It's a pretty scary experience. That sort of event happening to you when you've been in a long-term relationship, and you lose all your friends and your support network, and you don't know anyone, and it's pretty hard work. But then the real hard work started in January 2023. So I approached the GP in October 2022, saying I want to come off my antidepressant, because I think around that time I was like, right, I need to become a new person, I need to find myself, I need to reinvent myself, I need to, what are these drugs doing to me? I'm curious as to what I might be off them. And nothing could prepare me for what happened next. Sounds like I'm in a film. So yeah, the GP takes me off in kind of the usual way at that time, which was half it again. So this was 10 milligrams, half that, 5 milligrams for 2 weeks, I think it was. Then half that again for another 2 weeks. So maybe a month short taper, and then you're off. I'd initially, I think after stopping the drugs completely in around November maybe 2022, I noticed a slight lifting of brain fog, a bit more cognitive alertness, tingling in limbs. That was weird. That was about it though. But then come January, this is maybe Christmas time into January, I developed acute withdrawal symptoms, so flu-like symptoms, sweating, insane anxiety, insane depression, crazy sexual symptoms, just unbelievable premature ejaculation. That was weird. Honestly, a few seconds. I was not in a good state. I'm kind of reeling from a breakup, and I'm going into acute withdrawal. That was really not fun. And I'm at I was staying over at my dad's over the Christmas period, and I remember sitting down for breakfast one morning, thinking about going back to work in January, and I was just I am so unwell. I remember starting sentences and not being able to finish them because I couldn't remember what I was talking about. All the visual stuff started as well, I felt like I was in a dream world. That was fucking hard. So I don't know. I mean, the next few years were a complete and utter blur. But I realise I'm in acute withdrawal around this time. I go back to work in Bristol. I'll stay Christmas in January. Staying back in my hometown, Milton Keynes. So it's a fair way back to Bristol. So I somehow managed to pluck up the courage to go back to work, even though basically I can't fucking do anything. I looking at my notes here. I reinstate in mid late January because it's so bad. It's 2.5 milligrams apparently. I remember one day of feeling a morning, half a day of feeling like I was normal again, and then after that point it's slipped away. And this is probably where I start like a paradoxical kindling reaction to the reinstatement, where your body's like in a state that it can't get out of. It doesn't recognise the drug in the same way it did before because it's in a new state. This is when I'm like reading Surviving Antidepressants. I start kind of realising what's going on. That's what was the impetus for me to reinstate in the first place. I read that the reinstatement should be quite a low dose, which is why I started at 2.5 milligrams. In February, I go up to 5. All my executive functioning, brain fog, completely fucked. I developed this kind of like weird, I still get it sometimes even now, like this weird kind of detachment feeling in the bridge of my nose, where my brain feels like it's kind of like detached from the front of my head. It's really hard to describe. Depression, brain fog, anxiety, limbs shaking, fatigue, feeling cold. So it's not exactly clear what I do over this time. I forgot about this. I went for a job interview in February. Where was this? Was that the job in where was that? Okay, that was back in Buckingham, near Milton Keynes. Did I do that interview then? Oh my god. Good Christ. So I have to remember, like, around this time I'm feeling super insecure across all fronts. As I said, lost basically everything. Around this time, I mean, my job was unstable as well, which is why I went to look for another job. Because the job I started back in January 2022 was at startup, so it could all go tits up quite quickly, relatively speaking. So I take myself to this job interview, and I think it goes absolutely terribly. It's like 3 hours long. It's ridiculous, the setup. But I get offered the job somehow, and this becomes an emerging theme across the whole withdrawal journey. Is that my outer presentation of myself is completely at odds with how I feel on the inside. So even to this day, I come across relatively normal, but feel not quite 100%. But back then I was like, I am absolutely royally fucked, but yeah, I come across relatively okay. If I didn't tell people, they wouldn't really know. I mean, in the job interview situation, it kind of would have come across as probably nerves. If there was any kind of like cognitive issues or that might have come across and such. But anyway, right, so what to cover next? Disorientation, dizziness. In about March time, 2023, I start seeing a therapist precisely to cope with the acute and general withdrawal symptoms. I see him for just under 2 years. I talk about all sorts of things, not only the withdrawal. He supports me trying to get medical care through the NHS, which largely is completely futile, but he at least tried to help. He helps with, talking about the relationship and such. I mean, sometimes through the course of the withdrawal, I see him twice a week because I'm so fucked. I'm so unwell. And I can't really remember what I did last session with him. That sort of thing. He would start saying, in last session we did this, and I'm like, okay. I don't remember doing that. I'm basically living minute to minute around this time, just trying to kind of survive. So I think the plan around this time is to gradually wean off using, crushing up the drug in 10 milligram form and kind of diluting it in a measuring cylinder and gradually tapering off over time. And I kind of thought that things would just get better relatively quickly. I knew that staying on the drug wasn't really the right course of action. I guess also at that time you're kind of like, well, I need to get off this stuff at some point, so I might as well just get off it. I think it's difficult for my therapist as well to 100% understand what I was going through. I think the moment though that he really did understand exactly the cognitive decline that had been caused was when he asked me to repeat a sentence that he said, and I couldn't remember what it was. I think I got like half right, and this is like saying it back immediately afterwards. So that the sessions really just become kind of like focusing a lot on Eastern philosophy, on suffering, how to cope with suffering, which is beneficial, to be honest with you. There's some ideas that have hung around in my brain ever since, and they've been useful. But I think when the sessions kind of came to a conclusion in, Christ, when was this? Christmas time, 2024 into 2025. I think you could kind of sense that this dude is still quite unwell and isn't really kind of like engaging so much with it. I guess that's the sense I had. But maybe he was kind of like, we've gone through everything we need to go through, he's not going to kill himself. Maybe it's that kind of angle, but anyway. So I guess I go through my symptoms through the tapering process. Jesus, where do I start? So I don't feel numbness really, like I guess I think a lot of people experience going through this. I felt just crippling, guttural pain, just pure pain. Just pure suffering. I was taking myself to the gym very regularly because I was I couldn't really do anything else. I don't know how I kept working. I joined a small company, so it was difficult to fire me in the sense of not having a lot of people to fall back on. I think I did an okay job given the circumstances, but boy was I sick. As I said before, just living minute to minute. My memory was so shockingly appalling. Just complete and utter cognitive deterioration. I felt that I would pretend to read things or pretend to understand what people had said to me, or I remember going. We had like a little meeting with maybe 10 people, and there was kind of like a projected slideshow on the wall, and I remember entering the room and being confused that people were in a meeting and looking at the wall. At its worst, I remember feeling confused about crossing the road. I remember feeling confused about trying to use the checkouts at the supermarket. I remember confusion around it, like I couldn't watch TV, I couldn't read, I couldn't make conversation easily. I need to take my dinner out of the oven. Christ. So yeah, I felt confused about using the checkouts at the supermarket. I basically just felt confused and disorientated and dizzy and depersonalized and in pain and dead and sad and very, very unwell. I definitely just remember feeling very, very unwell. I think around this time, this time, I mean, I've jumped around quite a lot, but in March 2023, I think, coming out of a pretty tumultuous breakup, losing everything, as I said before, I'm kind of like trying to like latch onto whatever's going on to try and get my shit together. I joined a band because that's what I used to do when I was like in my teens and early 20s. It's like I've got to do something. I need to establish myself. I need to do things. I need to get my shit together and become a person. And I remember. I couldn't remember arrangements. There was like a lapse between my hands because I was a drummer. I remember like a lapse between my brain and my hand coordination. I remember trying to walk sometimes was hard. So yeah, pretty tough. I start making a few changes to my diet, eating more greens, smoothies and things. Alcohol completely fucks me up, makes me suicidal. Neuroemotions, this is a term that I hear a lot in the withdrawal community. But over these couple of years, let's say I'm trying to maintain some form of a social life, so I do still drink. I'm quite anxious to try and make friends, and not just go to work and go home. So that's difficult, really difficult to manage with all the symptoms going on at the same time. May 2023, really, really hurting from the breakup. Around this time, I see my ex-girlfriend with a new partner. That was pretty hard. But to be honest, because I was so ill, I was kind of like, I've got more important things to be thinking about than all of that stuff. So I think around this time I noticed really the premature ejaculation stuff is difficult. I noticed change in my libido. It was really in January of 2024 that I noticed big changes. From the acute withdrawal stage where I had like really, really premature ejaculation into January 2024, I notice big changes as I'm tapering in my sexual health. Really big tapering down of my libido and sexuality. So the premature ejaculation kind of stops and the erectile dysfunction starts coming in. Where do I go next? It's basically just a giant clusterfuck for the whole time. In 2024, I start messing around with loads of supplements: magnesium, green tea, omega-3, choline, SAMI, tryptophan, NAC, sage, 5-HTP. But if I do see some improvements, they're very, very temporary, and then I kind of go back to a baseline of hell. So my therapist helps me get. I did originally want to go and see Dr. Mark Horowitz at the I can't remember what it's called now. The deprescribing clinic he set up in the East London Foundation Trust, I think it's called, or something. But my GP couldn't make that happen because you have to be local to that clinic in London to get seen. I also reached out to Mark Horowitz himself because I had heard other people in withdrawal groups get sessions with him, but he never responded. So I settled for some Bristol mental health appointment in September of 2024, and that was, I think the modern term is gaslighting. That was a pretty tough experience. I mean, like I get lost going there, and I get confused about where to park, and it's all just a blur, and I'm completely fucked. And I'm kind of sat in the waiting room and everything's kind of like going haywire. I don't really know what's going on. So this lady, I can't remember what her title was. I think she was a psychiatrist. Takes me up, talks to me, tries to understand what's going on. I basically say to her, I'm in a protracted antidepressant withdrawal, and I need help with it. And when you're talking to someone that doesn't think that that's a thing, and just thinks you're really depressed or anxious, it's pretty difficult difficult process. So I kind of get that she wants to put me on busperone. I don't know the pronunciation. It's reduced sexual side effects, which is, I think, commonly prescribed to people that are still was technically on SSRIs at the time, tapering off, but it's commonly given to people that develop sexual problems while still kind of on them properly, let's say. But I'm like, given what drugs have done to me in the first place, I'm not exactly tempted to jump on another drug anytime soon, which I'm really glad I did, which I'm really glad I said and insisted on. So I kind of leave this appointment kind of just going, is there anything you do? I was kind of just like, I need to be seen, like anything, like a weekly checkup, a phone call. Nothing was offered. The health services are so fucked. But in the back of my mind, I was like, well, the health system's messed me up. So I, in the first place, by tapering me off so quickly, I've got to fix this myself. I remember walking out of that appointment kind of confused about where to go because I can't remember anything. I can't remember how I got in there. I can't remember how the doors unlocked. It was all very, very difficult. I just wanted to get out and go home. So yeah, what goes on around this time? I think around this time when was it? Oh Christ. So come November, I kind of... No, let's go back a bit. So I think around January of 2024, I changed my dose massively. I think I was on around 2 milligrams and then jumped to 1 or something like this. And that completely fucked me. And which is why I kind of then tried to pursue the tapering clinic, Bristol Mental Health Services, all that stuff. By November of 2024, I had tapered off and was completely off. Let me just read what's going on here. Yeah. So yeah, I'm off the drugs in November of 2024. And I'm kind of waiting for some cataclysmic event, but it kind of stays manageable. I'm still completely fucked, but it's kind of like, it's not getting any worse. So I'm just about keeping my shit together. I'm still employed. Reflecting back on this time, I kind of I've made one of the best friends I've ever made. Two of the best friends I've ever had, really. And I cherish them, and I'm eternally grateful for them in my life. And I don't need a lot of friends. I've always been skeptical of big cliques, value my independence, but you do need people in your life, and I'm very, very happy I have these people in my life. I tried to get in contact with old friends, and that didn't really go anywhere with a lot of them. People have got their own lives. I think my main friend group didn't really like me anyway, so that was hard when you're so ill to kind of accept. I'm at a much better place with it now, kind of like, well, it's life. Some people don't stay around forever, and maybe they didn't like you and you didn't like them that much anyway, so whatever. But these friends that I've made whilst cripplingly unwell, I've slept in their beds. They have seen me at my very, very worst, and I owe them a lot. So, I mean, I stopped really taking many notes after this point because I don't really see the point in it. It's kind of, I mean, I know I'm in a protracted withdrawal state. I know I'm recovering. Symptoms are chopping and changing all the time. I do start getting some sessions with Thomas Starchevsky in April of 2025, just because I felt I was struggling with the being off the drugs. I was struggling all the way through, but I was still struggling even though I'd been off them for 6 months or so. I was really worried about my basically asexuality, and cognitive issues that were persistent. And he helps me change my diet. So actually, I think I'd already done a keto diet before seeing him. Started a keto diet before seeing him, and the first 24 hours of keto was amazing. It was like being on drugs again. Where was I going with this? But basically, yeah, he suggests I stay on keto, remove processed foods, which I'd already done anyway. Avoid alcohol, caffeine, basically remove anything like that from your consumption. He introduces me to SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Suggests I get a test for that. I came back positive for hydrogen SIBO, I think it was. And so then I start trying to get treatment through the NHS for rifaximin, which is commonly used to treat travellers. The SIBO produced by traveller, I can't remember what it's called, traveller's sickness or something. The NHS isn't really on board with anything new. So they only gave me rifaximin because they thought instead of having SIBO I had IBS, but because IBS can apparently be treated by rifaximin, they said I could have it. Even though IBS isn't like a condition, there's no test for IBS, it's just a cluster of symptoms, right? So I don't really know how that works, but I got them. I noticed I can't even remember how long the course was. Was it a month? Yeah. So I started taking the rivaxamine. Well, I can't really remember what happened. I noticed a few sexual symptoms changing, a bit more genital sensitivity, I think. Yeah, maybe some increases to sexual dreams. A bit of a change in erection strength, but really, I'm looking back on it, it was again a temporary thing, to the point now where I'm kind of teetering on asexuality, and so yeah, I mean it's quite bizarre to have your sexuality completely modulated at this age. Thinking back to before withdrawal, like I had a very healthy libido and sexuality. If anything, actually, I think SSRIs kind of made me hypersexual. I struggle with pornography and probably developed a bit of an addiction. Up until I stopped up until I developed asexuality, I suppose. And it's still kind of like troubled me all the way through, because you're like, well, now I can't get it up and I don't feel horny. I'm going to use porn to try and like prove to myself that I have a sexuality still. And that is such a horrible experience. I mean, it's such a horrible experience. So, I mean, the sexuality stuff has kind of been a bit of a up and down roller coaster sort of thing over time. It's not really got that much better. There's moments, there's kind of there's brief windows at the moment where, like, maybe for an evening you get some kind of like libido back. I'm completely unable to have a relationship with a person at this point, but the symptoms get a bit better, so I can masturbate and it kind of works and I can finish and feel pleasure. But there's a numbness, there's a difficulty achieving erection. It's hard work. It's sexual stimuli in your brain or through pornography or whatever isn't as interesting as it was. You just don't feel that into it. It's pretty hard. But I said at the beginning of the withdrawal period, all the way back in 2023, that if my cognitive functioning, if I got that back and the sexuality didn't come back, I would be happy. And the signs so far are that the cognition is improving. So I'm like, that's fine. I'll live with this. Because living without any cognition is not fun. Really, really not fun. I mean, fucking hell. I mean, over the 3-year period, I have absolutely dreaded times when I've had to socialise and play board games or card games or memory games. Oh my god, that unfathomable dread of having to do that is, and I just don't feel it's so embarrassing to say. And even though I have on occasion at work parties or gatherings or whatever, just I can't do it. Sorry, I'm not playing. But it still really gets me down because I had such pretty good, a bit of an overachiever in my youth, and so I didn't find any of this stuff hard back in the day, and to have all that taken away from you is very challenging, to say the least. But I think the latest thing to really discuss is was my living situation. So I find myself in my own flat for the first time in 3 years, or give or take. And right back at the beginning, when I said I kind of moved in with a work colleague, which was supposed to be temporary, I was there until October the 11th of this year. So from about August, September of 2022 until October the 11th, 2025, I was staying with that work colleague I said I moved in with, and not having the greatest time, obviously because I was so unwell, but also because one of the reasons why he needed a lodger was because he recently split up with his wife, but he was having a child with his wife and was going to co-parent with his wife. So I was living with a baby, then a toddler, for all this time, and I couldn't move because I was so unwell. I remember moving in October this year, renting a van, and still feeling not cognitively very well, and the stress of trying to find somewhere to park this massive van in the place that I was living in, inner city Bristol, which wasn't my favourite place in the world, I have to say. It was, I'm just so impressed with myself. For surviving this whole ordeal. I will always be thankful to my work colleague for giving me somewhere to stay, but I kind of hated every second of it. You've got an iatrogenic condition. You hate everything anyway, so if you hate everything anyway and you're in a very compromised living situation, you're not having the best time. And my god, the feeling of moving out, being well enough to do that by myself, and actually have all my own things. I've moved everything by myself. My friend, both of my friends that I've made in Bristol were busy, so I moved myself. It was absolutely knackering, and I was so happy. I was so happy to just do my own thing, not have to, just be on your own. It's very liberating to be in charge of your own life and not feel like you're living in someone else's house. I also, one of the other reasons why I lived there for so long is because I I decide that trying to buy a house is a good thing to do. Um, Looking back on it, that was a really bad idea. I think I see like 20 to 30 houses, and I'm just so unwell that I can't make a decision and I can't really think straight. And um, I, I, I can't understand what the agent is saying, and I'm just too unwell. And so in the end, renting this place, it's just, I should have done it so much earlier, but I don't know if that was really possible being so unwell. Um, so here I am. Symptoms at the moment. I still have memory problems. I still have cognition problems. They're a lot better than they were at the beginning. I think it's safe to say, PSSD, post SSRI sexual dysfunction. You know, I can find it difficult to socialize, make conversation still if I'm having a bad day, but these bad days are becoming less and less. My derealization has got better. Depersonalization's got better. I can drink a bit of alcohol. I can drink a bit of coffee. So these things, the central nervous system is slowly recovering, but still got a long way to go. Still got a long way to go, but it's so much better than it has been, and I am eternally grateful for it getting better, because it was looking pretty shaky at times. Never tried to kill myself, but I do remember being on the phone to the Samaritans, going, I'm very unwell here from withdrawal from antidepressants, and I'm thinking about killing myself. So that was a pretty low moment. So yeah, I think, so my advice to anyone going through something like this is just keep going, because it does get better, even if it doesn't get 100% get better to 100% in years. It will get more manageable. I'm so glad that I didn't quit my job. I'm so glad that I kept turning up. I'm baffled that I've got this far. And you will find a strength within you you never knew you had. Because there's really no other option. This isn't just like an event that happened to get me on the drugs in the first place. Like, I'm having a bit of a meltdown because I fucked up my degree, and I have some issues with success and failure. No, this is I am completely iatrogenically damaged, and I don't know how I'm going to survive. And I think in that kind of, when it gets to that kind of severity of you fucked up your shit, you just find a strength to carry on. I would say, talk to if you've got any significant others, if you've got a partner, if you've got family, talk to them about it. They won't understand, but talk to them about it. I was very fortunate enough to have family that would slowly come to understand the situation. I mean, it's a completely artificial disease, so it's not really got a lot of precedence. But they can understand it in the way, the best, to a level that anyone, what am I trying to say? They understand it to a degree that anyone could do, really. You would hope that they could. Because even though they can't take the suffering away, it will at least help get you through. I would say push. I remember Thomas Tarchevsky saying to me, "Be the imposter." So even though you feel like death and you feel very, very unwell, if you have the ability to go and see a friend or see some family, go and do it. Pretend that you're not unwell, even though you're just internally screaming. Because it will, you're as a human being, you need certain things, and faking it till you make it in a condition like this is, I think, the only option. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I might do more videos like this as updates further along. Feel free to message me or drop a comment for any advice or general feedback or whatever on this video. I'll do my best to read and respond. I massively depended on the goodwill of people through this process, so I'll try and do the same. Hopefully see you soon, speak to you soon, and otherwise take care.